Hi, this is Michelle Turner, and this is my VoiceThread presentation on the dignity business. So the first question that we were asked to think about is, what does it mean to be in the dignity business? And to me, when I think about this question, what it's getting at is, as a teacher, I am teaching people the knowledge and the skills that they will need in order to be competitive in their careers or in post-secondary education after they leave their K-12 education. And it also means that we are providing students with opportunities to develop socially and emotionally so that they can learn how to be healthy, competent adults in society. And so that kind of goes to my last point here is, instead of just looking at students as, an English a student in my English class, I should be looking at how am I as a teacher going to help students develop holistically. So that they can be competent adults in society. The second question we were asked to think about is, what can we do in our role to be in the business of providing dignity to students and parents? And there are 4 points I'd like to make. The first is, I think it's important to provide equal access to the curriculum and extracurricular activities at the school to all students. And last week we watched the video with Megan, and she said it best when she made the appeal to her teachers to not limit her in terms of academically or socially what she was able to achieve. And so I think that that's very important, providing equal access for all students. Second, I think it's important to provide students with the full inclusion model, and also to provide students with IEPs with the least restrictive environment. Again, so that all students are having equal access to that high rigorous curricula that they need in order to be successful once they leave their K-12 education. And in order to provide students individual instruction that meets their needs, I think teachers can use differentiated instruction in order to reach students' individual needs. Third point is, I think it's important for educators to listen to parents and students when they are expressing what their needs are. A couple weeks ago we watched a video in which some parents were trying to meet with the school principal, the classroom teacher, and a counselor, and it was very clear that the school personnel had decided that this particular student his needs would best be served at a school that was something like 20 miles away from the home, and the parents wanted their child instead to go to the neighborhood school. Well, in that situation, it was very clear that the school personnel weren't willing to listen to what the parents were saying about their students' needs. And so I think that it's very important to always give parents and students the benefit of the doubt and to listen to what they have to say. And I think that that's important because it also advances democratic values. And the last point here is, I think it's always important to build on students' strengths and to address their individual needs. So this helps educators look at students through an assets-based model rather than through a deficit lens. The next question we are asked to think about is, how can we be in the dignity business while upholding IDEA 6 principles? Well, first and foremost, as school leaders, it is important to ensure that all students are provided with a free, appropriate public education. And this really goes to the heart of the zero reject principle. Secondly, when students are being referred over to special education services, it is important to ensure that they are being provided with a non-discriminatory evaluation process. So this means that students should be evaluated holistically, and that one test should not determine whether or not they receive special education services. And lastly, when students and their families do not speak English as their first language, the test should be administered in their first in that student's primary language. In addition, if we want the whole process to go smoothly with the IEP and the placement, it is important to involve parents both in developing the individual education program and also in determining where the student will finally be placed. And it is also important to remember as educators that parents have the right to reject in part or in whole the IEP program that is being provided to them and their children, and they also have the right to either accept or reject where their student is going to be placed. And then the last point here is, when appropriate, students should be involved in the process as well, because they should have a voice and a say in their own education. The next question we are asked to think about is, how can we, in our role, work with families and be in the business of dignity? Well, first, as school leaders, it's important to build strong relationships with students and their families. And one way we can do this is by making parents and their students feel welcomed and safe while they're at the school. It's also important to develop a positive school-wide inclusive community, and one of the best ways school leaders can do this is through management by walking around. So just by having that physical presence in the school and interacting positively with students, with faculty, and with staff will go a long way in developing a positive community. Next, it is really important to treat students as whole, unique individuals and not labeling people. And I think that this was one of the main takeaways from Jay's eulogy, that when Dr. Waymer talked about Jay, he didn't talk about him through his disability or through his parents' profession or his parents' relevance to the KU community. Rather, he talked about and just focused on Jay as a person and how he made a unique contribution to the KU community. So I think that that is really important, to look at people as people, unique individuals without labels. And last, it is important to include and encourage parents to participate in their children's education, so that we are going back to that core concept that families are the core unit of society. So parents should be involved in their children's education, and we as educators can provide that avenue for them.